Hey everybody, it's Cauliflowerman here. I am bringing you another Helix build for Battleborn. Today we are focusing on the character Boulder. Now Boulder is an Eldrid defender and he's one of my favorite characters. He's just a really weird character to learn to play. Just because his play style, I've never seen it before in any other game. There's nobody like Boulder at all in any other game, and so it's really fun to play him. And when you're playing against enemies, they really don't know what to do with them, especially if they've never played Boulder. They get really confused. I've played Boulder quite a bit, and I still don't exactly know the best way to deal with him. I just don't like him. He's not all that strong of a character necessarily, so I'm not really worried when another person picks Boulder. I just know he's just going to be a big nuisance, and he's really going to irritate me. But anyways, let's look at his basic character information and then go to his skills. On the left side, it says he's a tank, a brawler, and he's complex. I'm going to agree with all those. He's a tank. He's got about 3,000 health at level 10. You can level him up and put gear on him to make that closer to 4,000. He's a brawler just because he does melee damage. He doesn't do very much damage. That's one thing you got to remember. He's not really a character that does a lot of damage. So one thing that I've noticed is in Battleborn, people don't know how to actually play a tank. If you don't know how to play a tank, and by that I don't mean you can pick a character that's called a tank. I mean you have to know how to take as much damage as possible as Boulder. Otherwise you're just going to be a waste for your team. So you really need to know how to play a tank in order to play Boulder well. Just because his damage isn't all that great. And then he's complex simply again for that reason, because he has to be played like a tank and he's got low damage, so you kind of need a team to help you out on kills usually with a Boulder. If you get real good, you can get the kills yourself, but anyways, let's go ahead and look at his skills. On the right side, his passive is called Rage. Now Rage activates whenever Boulder gets a kill or whenever he uses Boulder Dash. Now whenever you have Rage activated, you melee 20% faster and take 25% less damage for 6 seconds. Now, that sounds awesome, but it's really not all that impressive to begin with. Later on, you can add a movement speed boost to that, and so that'll really put Rage over the top, because Boulder is one of the fastest characters in game anyways. But just always remember, whenever you get a kill or you use Boulder Dash, you're going to melee a little bit faster and take less damage. Below his Rage is Runic Acts. Now Runic Acts is his, that's just his weapon. It's real slow, like it says right here. When you throw the axe, you no longer have the axe in your hands, obviously, and so Boulder will start punching. And when he does that, he's a little bit faster, but his damage output is kind of terrible. So you really don't want to be with your axe, or you don't want to be without your axe for very long at all. If you do that, you're going to run into a lot of trouble. Next is his Great Shield. This Great Shield is great simply for the fact that you can block a huge amount of damage, and so a lot of times enemies think you're going to die. Like, let's say you have 300 health. I honestly don't feel that nervous with 300 health as Boulder, because you just throw up his Great Shield. You can wait for your Boulder Dash to come back, so that once your Great Shield's gone, you just dash out of there. But always remember, you need to use that shield, and you need to block as much damage as you can with it as possible. One thing that I don't see a lot of Boulders do is they don't stand in front of their minion wave. So if you're standing in front of your minion wave and you have your shield up, all the damage that would be going to your minions is getting absorbed by the shield, so that keeps your minions alive so you can push forward and take map control. You really need to learn to do that if you want to play a really effective Boulder. Now below his Great Shield is his Boulder Dash. The Boulder Dash knocks enemies back. When you knock enemies back, if they hit a wall or an enemy behind them, they will get stunned. So you really want to knock people back using Boulder Dash into walls and then stun them. That's really how you. That's really Boulder's only offensive attack. Is once you stun them, then you can do pretty good damage. Otherwise, he's really not going to do very much at all. Always remember though, Boulder Dash dashes forward pretty far. You'll get an overshield on it and you'll increase its dash distance, so then later on it can also be used defensively. So like I said before, when you get low with Boulder or low with health on Boulder, throw up your shield, and then you usually throw up your shield till you get Boulder Dash, then you'll Boulder Dash out of there and then back up and get healing. Below his Boulder Dash is his Axe Toss. This throws his axe. It deals like 200 damage, and once you pick it up, it lowers its cooldown. Always remember the rune power on this, and I guess I didn't discuss the rune power on Boulder Dash. The rune power on Boulder Dash means that it does additional damage after you hit somebody with Boulder Dash. So that's always just good to remember. Basically, when you use Boulder Dash, everything that you do becomes more effective. With Axe Toss, what will happen, and this actually, it kind of sucks that it does this with Axe Toss, but when you throw your Axe Toss when you have your Rune power, your axe will explode, and that explosion is great, but it just means you're going to be without your axe for a little bit. So always remember that when you throw your axe with the rune power activated, your axe is going to explode. It's going to deal a lot of AoE damage, so a lot of times it's good to use that on an enemy who's near minions, or it's just good to use it on somebody who's stunned, because once you add all that damage up together, that's a lot of quick damage that you do to an enemy. But Axe Toss, you really want to keep Boulder's axe in his hand, so you don't want to just throw your axe across map. You always want to go pick it up after you throw it, and you use it kind of sparingly. It's not like a huge amount of damage, so you really only want to use it when you're trying to really finish somebody off. And then finally is his ultimate. It's called Runes of Power. Now, Runes of Power will increase your melee damage. It also gives you 25%, I guess you call this blocked lifesteal. You'll gain life for 25% of the damage you block with your shield. So that's obviously great. A lot of times enemies forget about that, so when you're weak, you just hit your Runes of Power, put up your shield, and then the enemies will heal you back up to full health. And it's real stupid of them, but they do it all the time. And then the Runes of Power, like I said before, it increases the damage on your Boulder Dash and your Axe Toss. So always remember that when you're playing Boulder. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at his levels here. Now, for the first level, Boulder Dash, you can either get an overshield on Boulder Dash, or you can have your axe return to your hand when you miss. Now, you might think, oh, I always want to have my axe, and maybe you're not that accurate, so you might think that you want to get the axe toss to return to your hand, but no, it's really not a good choice. Especially because you really only throw your axe at stunned enemies. Like you always use Boulder Dash first and then your axe toss. Not always, but usually. So it's real easy usually to pick up your axe, so you don't really want the left choice. And then on the right, getting that overshield when you use Boulder Dash is great. That adds a lot of defensive attributes to Boulder Dash, and it just makes Boulder real hard to kill. If you dash, you can dash like something like, it's got to be like 40 yards. It's a real long ways in game once you level up Boulder Dash. So getting an overshield on it too just means they're not going to hit you when they do Boulder Dash, and by the time they can aim at you, you're going to be so far away that you'll be able to run away anyways. Now for level 2, left side you can increase Boulder Dash's distance. Center you can make Boulder bounce backwards after hitting someone with Boulder Dash. And the right side you can knock people up with Boulder Dash. Now, you never want to bounce back with Boulder because he's a melee character. So let's say you hit someone with Boulder Dash, they're going to get stunned if you hit them into a wall. But if you were to bounce back, then you just have to run farther to go up and do melee damage to them. So you don't want to choose that ever. The right side knocks people into the air. That's really not very useful because you want to stun people. Stunning people in almost every case is better than a knock-up, so don't go to the right choice. It's really not all that great. And then the left choice, increasing Boulder Dash's distance, you might not think that's all that great, but what it really does is it makes it a far more useful skill to be used defensively. At the regular dash distance, enemies will still be able to attack you pretty simply when you Boulder Dash away, but if you use the increased dash distance, you'll get so far away, especially if you use Boulder Dash when you jump off of something that has a bit of altitude on it. You can go flying almost across the entire map with Boulder Dash. It's absolutely nuts. So I always go to the left side on level 2. Level 3 now, left side you can slow enemies, right side you can block more damage and sprint while you have your shield up. The slow is okay. The only thing I don't like about that is I really don't want to be unarmed with Boulder. It's really hard to hit people when you don't have his axe. I really don't like it. I've tried that slow before and it's okay. I just don't really see a huge amount of promise to it. The only thing that it really does help with is after you use your Runes of Power, when you throw your axe explodes, so you're going to be unarmed. So sometimes it's real good to slow enemies during that because you have extra movement speed, and if you hit them, you slow them so they're not going to get away. However, when you're playing Boulder really well, his best attribute is, it's not his axe, it's not his attack damage, it's his shield. So if you can sprint while using your shield, it gets almost impossible for enemies to kill you at almost any situation. There's a lot of times that I will run behind enemy sentries, and it's only because I can sprint while I use my shield, and so I'll just run behind the enemy sentry, sprint through that area, turn around and get the kill that I'm going for, and then sprint back through, back to my team. Boulder is really good at just punching through enemy lines and doing absolutely whatever he wants. So level 3, I always choose that right choice. Now, level 4 here, this one, you've got another chance to get a slow. I don't really like the slow simply because I don't feel like you're going to do a whole lot of damage using melee strikes with Boulder. If you hit enemies with an axe toss and give them an extra 240 damage, your axe toss already does 200 damage. If you use runes of power, it's going to be an extra 300 damage from that, so that's 500 damage plus this 240 is 740 damage just from your axe, and that's nuts. So I really usually like to go with that axe toss simply because his killing combo is Boulder Dash somebody into a wall, stun them, hit them with your axe toss, and then do a little bit of melee damage and kill them. The right side, I guess you can kind of make a bit of a case for it, but again, I like to really put enough damage on that axe toss that it's just a killing blow. Level 5 then, left side, when rage is activated, you get a movement speed boost. Center choice, you get an extra damage reduction, and right side, you increase the duration of rage. I always go with the left side, the movement speed boost, just because a lot of times you'll use Boulder Dash when you're in a lot of trouble. If you use Boulder Dash and then get a 30% movement speed boost afterwards, it's really almost impossible to kill Boulder. The center one, I feel like if you're getting shot when you're using Boulder Dash defensively, you're already dead. So the damage reduction is okay, but if you need to use it, you're going to be dead anyways. So I don't choose the center one. And then on the right side, I don't feel like Rage's base stats of increasing your melee speed and damage resistance is really all that great, so I don't think it's an attribute worth extending. So for level 5 here, I always choose the left side. Next one's level 6. You can increase axe toss's damage. The 15% damage increase, I don't think that applies to his rune power damage, and I don't know if it stacks with his bleed, but either way, even if it does stack with his bleed and the axe toss damage, that together is 440, and 15% of that is like 60 damage, which isn't that much. And if it doesn't stack with the bleed, then you're only adding 30 damage with it, so I'm not sure that you're really going to get much out of it. I usually go with this center choice, the Salt the Wound. It gives enemies increased damage after they are stunned or after they're hit by axe toss. The reason I do this is because I use axe toss after stunning an enemy, so you'll stun them into a wall, hit them with your axe toss. That'll do, like I said before, you'll get like 700 some damage off of that. Actually, if you count in the Boulder Dash damage, you can get up to like 1,000. But then they have 15% damage amp while they're stunned, and usually when you're Boulder, people are paying attention to you and they watch when you stun somebody and they try and help you kill them. So that 15% damage amplification can almost guarantee a kill every time you get that combo to work perfectly. Now, the right side, increasing Boulder Dash's damage. Boulder Dash, you don't use it for its damage, so I would avoid that choice always. Level 7's our next level here. The left side, you can increase the damage of Boulder's melee attacks. That has promise, and if you have a good healer, you might want to choose that, but generally speaking, with Boulder, especially the way I play him, I punch way through the enemy lines, and so a lot of times I'm on my own. So I want to increase his health regen, and that health regen lasts for a very long time. You don't have to continuously attack people to keep that health regen up, so it's usually pretty easy to keep your health regen up at plus 21. That adds to his 7 health regen. That's the base. Boulder has a base health regen of 7, so that's 28. I use gear on him that bumps up his health regen even more, so I'm near usually I have like a 49 health regen with Boulder after I get this level, because the gear I use bumps his up 21 as well, so that's nuts. Every 2 seconds I'm basically healing 100. That always helps, especially because he has a shield, so when you have a shield and your health regen is that high, you're really going to cause a lot of problems for enemies, so I always use the Dwarven Constitution on level 7. Then level 8 here, this one I'm not super sure on which one to do here. You can increase the effect of rune power on Boulder Dash. That one has some promise because the Boulder Dash, you get like an extra 150 damage, so you can do a little bit of extra damage, and I think there's extra stuff you can get from that Boulder Dash. What I'm trying to say here is there is some promise to it, but Generally speaking, I feel like you don't necessarily need that damage or the extra damage from it. The center choice I always avoid because I don't like being unarmed. And then the right choice, the choice on the right, decreasing the cooldown on Boulder Dash, I usually go with that. But again, this one I'm not super sure on. These ones aren't the greatest choices. The reasons why I say I'm not super sure on it is because with Boulder, you have a shield, so you don't necessarily need to use Boulder Dash all the time, and you can only use it offensively in certain scenarios. So lowering the cooldown's good, but it doesn't necessarily give you a huge advantage. So this one, kind of a toss-up between the left side and the right side. I always choose the right one, though. That's just my opinion. Level 9 then is the next one here. The left side, killing an enemy with Axe Toss increases Boulder's max health. This one is great simply because Boulder at level 10 has something like 3,000 health. Put this on there, he's got 3,700 health if you get all those 5 stacks. And then with gear, you can easily get him above 4,000. 4,000 is a shitload of health for someone with a shield that blocks 10,000, or not 10,000, his shield blocks 2,000, but he's also got incredible health regen, so it just makes Boulder super hard to kill. The right side, retrieving his axe reduces the cooldown. You can sort of make a case for that, but I use his axe toss very sparingly. Maybe if you chuck axes all the time, you could choose that one just because you don't necessarily need the extra health with Boulder, but I just think it's great because then you never get close to dying. And then finally, level 10 here. This one, the left side, you can increase the damage for every 250 health that Boulder has. Like I said, you can get him over 4,000, so you can gain an extra 32% melee damage. So that is absolutely nuts. And that's as long as you have the runic power on your axe, but 32% increased damage is nuts. The center choice, it can help you get extra health if you haven't used the rune power on one of your skills. So whenever you use your ultimate, whenever you use one of your skills, it uses up your rune power for that skill. So if you use Boulder Dash or Axe Toss, you use up those rune powers. If you don't use those up before you use your next rune power, you can restore a bunch of your health with this. You can make a case for it if you don't really use your skills all that often, but I'm using my skills far quicker than I use my rune power or my ultimate as Boulder, so I never choose this center one. I tried it once, didn't think it was useful at all. I don't think I ever actually had the chance to replenish health from it, even though I chose it as my choice. And then the right side, you can increase the amount that you heal when you block with your great shield as Boulder. This one's great simply because then you absolutely do not need a healer. With a shield that has something like 2,000 blocking, you can get up to 1,000 healing from it. That's nuts. Add that to Boulder's already super high health regen and his high health that he starts with, and he basically becomes unkillable. So now, after going over his levels there, let's go ahead and look at his gear. The first gear that I have for him, like I said, I put health regen gear on him. This one gives him extra health regen after surviving for 3 minutes. I don't feel like it's that hard to stay alive as Boulder, and so once you have this plus 21 health regen, if you add that with his other level, that gives him a plus 21 health regen, and his base 7 health regen, you're at 49 health regen per second, so you heal 100 every 2 seconds. It's really hard to kill someone who has that much regen on them. The next gear that I have for him is just I increase his health. Like I said, I like to have Boulder with a ton of health. He's got a lot of defensive attributes, so I just want to make him so he's super hard to kill. And then finally, I've got my shard generator on him that has a negative on reload speed just because he doesn't reload whatsoever, and you always want shard generators simply for the fact that it's going to give you experience. Sometimes you have a little bit of trouble as Boulder getting enough experience because you don't do much damage, so you're not going to get that many minion kills, and you're not going to get that many player kills if things aren't working out for you, so I always like to have him with extra shards. But just remember, when you're playing Boulder, you need to learn how to play him as a tank. You want to have people focus on you as much as possible, but then just be disciplined enough so that when you get near death, you get out of there. And just try and punch through the enemy lines, make them have to pay attention to you, and then once things start looking rocky, get out of there as quick as you can, and that's the way you do it.